Hello. My name is Joseph Rashad. I'm the Executive Director and Vice President of the Native Biodata Consortium, and I had the good fortune of being on the Johns Hopkins Bloomberg School of Public Health on-call program hosted by Josh Sharfstein. So I have been a student at Johns Hopkins Bloomberg School of Public Health for a while now. I've met Josh Sharfstein a couple of times. He's now working alongside the American Indian Research Center there at Johns Hopkins with Dr. Donald Warren, who is an Ogallala tribal member from South Dakota, and he's working with Mary Allison Barlow, who's the director of the center there at Hopkins. And recently, we were all together for a couple of different engagements in Rapid City, South Dakota, announcing Johns Hopkins public health presence in Rapid City, ostensibly for uh, the tribes in North and South Dakota and working not only with us, Native Bio, but University of North Dakota, North Dakota State University, and the Great Plains Tribal Chairman's Health Center and Epicenter. So I arranged with Dr. Sharfstein to be on this podcast and talk a little bit about native biodata. And you can follow the link to this podcast below in the comment section, or in our playlist. So we have a playlist of other people that we've spoken to or interviewed us, people here at Native Bio, people on the board of Native Bio, or just general colleagues around Indian country, both in the United States, Alaska, and Canada, or in the Pacific Islands, or in Australia, in New Zealand, or Latin America. So we've got a large network. So I encourage all of you to go to our playlist. But I wanted to just give this little teaser or this promotion video so that you guys will go and look at the different offerings we have on our YouTube site. As well as we have a website for Native Bio, nativebio.org. We have a bonfire site there where you can purchase merchandise that has Native Bio logos on it. And then we also have a donor box where you can donate once, you can donate monthly, you can donate yearly. Um, so please go check those out as well. But I wanted to just highlight a couple of things on this podcast. It's very short, it's 15 minutes or so, but the beginning and sort of towards the end, I just wanted to talk about a few things and share my ideas with you.
Of biomedical research. But before we started the podcast, you said, for the Native community, this research is at a crossroads. Could you tell me more about what you meant by that?
So, for a long time, American Indians have had some of the worst and longest lasting health disparities, and there's a lot of political reasons for that, and also logistical reasons with the Indian Healthcare Service. But after the mapping of the human genome in 2003, American Indians and other isolated populations, whether they be Mendelian or island populations or populations that are culturally isolated like the Amish, all of a sudden these types of folks are very highly sought after because of the genetic associations and predispositions that people assume that they have. But for American Indians, they have a federally recognized and pre-existing or pre-Columbian sovereignty, which allows them to self-determine pretty much everything: economy, law, healthcare. And because the technologies are so powerful and because the remunerative or restorative justice has waited so long for tribes, we should be able to sort of raise all boats with this data and provide better healthcare services and quality of life. So this little introduction, what I wanted to add, and I didn't add in the original podcast because we're limited in time, was that the open data argument um, has done what myself and others have predicted now that we have the folks in office and Elon Musk and Silicon Valley and all of our records. Open data's original idea was that it was going to be the great equalizer. So my analogy is if you have a pool of water, clean water, and there's no pipes to go to your house, you have to go there every day to collect your water. Most of us just have a cup or a couple of gallon jugs, and it belongs to everybody. It's in what they call the commons, right? And but some folks, like Nestle, have big tanker trucks, and they can suck tons and tons of clean water out of that pool, right? So can the energy industry. They can suck out water for fracking. This is the same thing with data, especially biomedical and genetic data, right? The pool might be for everybody, but there are certain folks who can access, draw down, and develop the water in that pool better than other folks. But the difference between a pool of water, in the analogy that I'm drawing, is that in terms of genomics, it isn't really like water. Yes, we're all human and water is water, but the genetics of certain populations, whether they be people with brittle bone disease or people of the Ashkenazi or Amish communities or island communities in the Pacific or Native Americans, it's different over, sometimes hundreds of years, like for the Ashkenazi and the Amish, but for Pacific Islanders and Native Americans, it's on the order of 3,000 to 40,000 years of difference that have accumulated from the rest of the world. And that is worth money in an environment where those same populations have always been at the bottom of the social order, the economic order, the healthcare order because of settler colonialism. And it's not going to change soon. The value that's in their genomics should be used to economically and physically benefit those populations first. But because of the way the system is set up, it's likely that their data will be taken away, be used for development of big pharma and other kinds of therapies, and not go back immediately, or if ever, to those communities due to the way our commercial system is structured around healthcare and insurance access. And now that while us at Native Bio have been trying to protect all of this data and possible intellectual property, it is now up for grabs, at least in the United States, because all of that data has been made open by the NIH, by the Bayh-Dole Act, by the America Competes Act, by universities and researchers believing in open data. So now it's all kind of there for the taking. So I'm going to play another little short section and then make some closing remarks and let you guys get on with your day.
Ask you how you hope the Native Biodata Consortium will work. Maybe the kind of old way would be for data just to be taken and studied, and then you're kind of hearing about how it might be used, and it may or may not be helping tribal communities. But with your essentially containing and controlling the data, how do you hope to engage with researchers who either want to study plants or biologic specimens like blood samples? How do you hope that conversation goes? So tribes in the late 1800s, early 1900s went through something called the Marshall Trilogy, which removed some of their sovereignty but instantiated other parts of their sovereignty as domestic dependent nations, recognizing formally that they have the right to create their own laws and manage their own resources. And that was all
sort of re-emphasized with a bunch of legislation in 1975. Because of that, tribes are critically aware of what is theirs. The rest of the country thinks that they're regular American citizens and that they are part of a larger body politic where their data is mixed with other American data and that it benefits everybody. What we're trying to do is make tribes more like Google or 3M or Regeneron, where the resources and the IP and the development all belongs to them. And anybody else who wants to be part of that development will have to sign contracts and guarantee some sort of benefit.
Yeah.
So I will say here that the Marshall Trilogy has done good and bad things for American Indians and Alaska Natives in the United States. But right now, all of that is under threat. And it has been under threat, at least in the biomedical and genome space. Of course, you know that a lot of the Pacific Island commonwealths are not protected as indigenous people. Hawaii, American Samoa, and a few other islands of the Pacific, and neither is Puerto Rico protected as an indigenous place. So when folks want to get indigenous DNA or rare DNA, those are the places they go to because those people have no way to protect themselves, no legal way to protect themselves. And then universities play at memorandums of agreement or understanding without any real contractual obligation to benefit those people. There's no way to take them to court. There's no way to extract money from the system in that sort of way. But American Indians do have those protections, and they circumvent them by going to urban health spaces or to the closest proxy population, which is mostly Central Americans, Mexican Americans, undocumented Americans, whatever you want to call them. So it's been going on for a while, and now in this current landscape, it's likely to be removed. If you know anything about the termination era that started with Franklin Delano Roosevelt and continued all the way to the mid 70s, lots of tribes were terminated, their lands were taken away. The people were um, sort of detribalized, not having any more recognition or the benefits of treaties like healthcare, housing, education, and land management. And that's kind of what's on the chopping block right now for a number of reasons. Um, there is on many tribal lands new resources being recognized that were not able to be recognized prior because there's no technology to extract the content. So if it's fracking oil, that was very rudimentary or too costly technology to employ. So that is happening. There are rare earth minerals like lithium and coltan and a whole bunch of other things being found in or near tribal territories. And of course, there's all of the other information that can be extracted through uh, biological technologies. So for biomedicines from traditional knowledge, trees, plants, even microbiology, fungus, and then the stuff that comes from humans and the animals, domestic or wild, that are inside the indigenous purview. So this is kind of what we are trying to do at Native Biodata Consortium when we're not alone. There's the U.S. Indigenous Data Sovereignty Network. There's the Global Indigenous Data Alliance. There are folks in many indigenous places in Alaska, Canada, South Africa, uh, Northern Scandinavia, lots of different places who have the same idea that they recognize that their places and their people are now commercially valuable and viable, and they want to protect themselves and their data. Iceland is a perfect example. You just look up Iceland, decode Amgen, and that whole fight with the Iceland genomic study. Uh, I can't remember what Arabian country. I think it might have been United Arab Emirates. I'm not sure, but they sequenced all of their citizens because human DNA is now big money. So I will leave you that with that. Please go look up the things I talked about. The U.S. Indigenous Data Sovereignty Network, COP 16 through 21. All of these things are discussed widely in academic and political circles because of the commerciality. The general public does not know this. And there have been lots of economists that talked about Africa rising in prominence due to all of these technologies that are able to extract information and raw materials, and talking about that superpowers will be insignificant or irrelevant in the coming future, and we will live in a multipolar world where regions or blocks of political power will be protecting themselves against other blocks of political power, like you see with the BRICS collective, Venezuela, Brazil, India, and China. This is the future, and we have to recognize it, and we have to protect ourselves before we end up being part of a consortium or collective that we do not want to be part of, or we weren't asked to be part of, and all of our stuff is taken away. So, Native Americans are just the canaries in the coal mine. It will slowly but surely be applied to all U.S. citizens. So, I thank you. Look for other Native Bio content on many social media platforms. I am Joseph Rochetta, and have a good day.